So I am so happy to be here with you. I am Audra Faust. I am a professor here. I'm an adjunct and I get to direct here, and I'm so excited to be here because this is actually my 10th musical to direct here, and I love it so much. It's been such a joy. I have the best students. I have such amazing, talented students. And I'm telling you, this weekend, you're not going to want to miss this production. The costumes and the talent is just astounding. You're going to just love it. So please come this Friday or Saturday to come see. These are our two double-casted Anastasias. You won't see them together. That would be weird. But you're going to see them either on Friday or Saturday. I love that this is my 10th show to do because it's kind of like an anniversary for me. And in a way, I can so relate to Anastasia and this new life that she's found in discovering herself. I'm going to take you into a journey into my past today. So I attended as a freshman. I started in 2002. Yes, do the math. I was 20 when I started in the spring of 2002. This was 22 years ago. I sat where you're sitting as a freshman. And it actually wasn't my plan to come to SNU at all. But I'm so glad that I did. God had other plans for me, and I had to take a small break and then come to SNU. And then I went, and I loved it so much that I decided I wanted to come back and teach here. I went on, I met my husband here, and we got married and went on to live in Boston. And I went and got my master's at the Boston Conservatory of Music. And we lived right next to Fenway Park, which was so cool. We got to hear like home runs. You could hear the crowd, and we got to attend a lot of games. And we actually got to attend one of the World Series games in 2007 when they won. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved the energy of Boston. I loved the community of Boston. Where we lived in our apartment was filled with musicians because we had the New England Conservatory, the Boston Conservatory, and Berklee School of Music, all these musicians living in the same area. So I didn't, that wasn't my real story, but it kind of was because literally our next door neighbor, one of the years we lived there, was a drummer. And he put his drum set against our connected wall. And my husband and I would turn a TV show on sometimes at night, and then all of a sudden we hear, it was fun. And I love this character because I love how she chose to be positive about it. And look at the blessing. Because difficult circumstances, y'all, can make you bitter, or they can make you blessed. Our brains are these beautiful neurobiological computers, and we can retrain them for thinking positive. This is a great book. It's called You Happier by Dr. Daniel Amen. Oh man, I highly recommend this for everybody. He talks about how, we've heard that phrase that it takes 21 days to make a habit, right? But he says it actually takes 2 more cycles of that. It takes another 42 days to make that habit stick. And he says that you can train your body, your brain to be happier. He says that where you bring your attention always determines how you feel. If you focus on loss, you will feel grief. If you focus on fear, you will feel afraid. If you focus on being belittled, you will feel small. If you focus on those who have hurt you, you will feel angry. But if you focus on gratitude, you will feel grateful. If you focus on those who love you, you will feel loved. If you focus on those who love you, you will feel loving. And if you focus on the times you have felt joy, you will feel joyful. Life is a beautiful journey, right? It is a beautiful journey, but life can also be a hard journey sometimes. There might be moments where you wish you weren't on the journey that you're on. Sometimes your journey can knock you down, and it can drag you around. Sometimes your journey can feel hopeless. Guess what? We can't see our whole journey. We can only see one step at a time in the journey or the story of our life. Okay, I'm gonna do something really weird, okay? I want you to stand up, and if you have like flip-flops or shoes on, I want you to stand up with me. Stand up, stand up. I'm a director, I'm in director's mode, so stand up. All right. Okay, now I want you, if you have flip-flops or anything like that, or if you don't, you don't feel comfortable putting your smelly feet out, then don't do it. But I want you to feel your toes on the ground, feel your heels on the ground, maybe just kind of wiggle around. Yeah, I like it. Great, that's commitment. Come audition for me. Great, so, okay, you guys are amazing. Now sit down. Good job, I love it. Okay, now everybody close your eyes and just imagine for a second that was the last time you got to do that for 23 years. That's my journey. That's my story. When I was 18 years old, I went to Olivet Nazarene University. I was 18. Actually, was skipping my senior year. They had asked me to give me a full ride to come and sing for them and travel for their PR group. And I went a whole summer. I turned 18 that summer. And 10 days before classes started, they gave us a break. So we got to go home. And my brother and his girlfriend, who's his wife now, we were all traveling in our car together. Okay, one more exercise and then I'm done, I promise. Find a neighbor, look at your neighbor, look at them deeply in the eyes, take out your pinky. Great, now pinky swear to them that you, say it together, I will always wear my seatbelt. I will always wear my seatbelt. Thank you, I just saved your lives. Okay, so what happened to me? I was not wearing my seatbelt. I was reading in the back seat. You're 18. You feel invincible. You are not. We got to Missouri in the middle of nowhere, and our tire malfunctioned, and our car fishtailed, and we flipped 5 times, and I was thrown out the side window 75 yards down the highway, and I suffered severe injuries, broke my back, broke my femur. I had horrendous road rash, but when I realized what had happened to me after I came to, I didn't go unconscious, but I realized what had happened to me, and I'm on the middle of the highway, and I knew that there was oncoming traffic. I desperately tried to get off of the highway, but I couldn't, and I tried using my elbows to scoot me off, and I couldn't. It was pitch black at night, and we were around the corner of a little corner, and all of a sudden I heard my name being called, and it was my brother and his wife. They were fine, and they were looking for me. They had no idea where I was, and I called out to them. They couldn't see me until a semi started heading for me, and its light lit up my silhouette. And somehow, miraculously, my brother is my superhero, and he ran and he scooped me up off the highway and pulled me off just as it went by us and almost hit us both. And he risked his life for me, and he will always be my hero. The moment he scooped me up and he laid me down on the side of the highway, a man showed up and tied a tourniquet on my leg because I had a compound fracture of my femur, and I was bleeding very badly, and it ended up taking 45 minutes before I was put on a helicopter and meta-flighted to a hospital. So I ended up having to have a lot of transfusions, and I'm telling you, I would not be alive today if it hadn't been for that man. Crazy thing is we don't remember him. None of the 3 of us don't remember what he looked like, and he disappeared. So I have to believe that he was my guardian angel, and there's a lot of times where I was going through some really difficult moments and difficult moments in my life, and I just have to go back to that moment and go, okay, God's not done. God's not done with me. I want to show you something I've never shown anybody before in my testimony, and if it's traumatic, I'm so sorry. This was my shirt that they cut off me. I didn't bring my pants because it's way worse. And the burns that I received and the injuries that I sustained were very severe. And they called my mom and told her I probably didn't survive the flight to the hospital. But when I got there, they immediately put me in a lot of surgeries. And when I woke up, I saw my mom, and I hadn't seen her in a really long time, and she's here right now, and she's my angel. I hadn't seen her for a while, and when I saw her, when I woke up from my surgery, I saw her, I was so happy. Oh my gosh, that's when you want your mom, right? I was so happy to see her, and I said, oh, I love you so much, but Mom, do I still have my legs? They don't feel right. I had what was called hypersensitivity. Instead of your spinal cord being severed, it's where cauda equina, where the horse's tail, where all the nerves go. They said it was like someone took a hammer to my cauda equina, and I had what was called hypersensitivity, and it felt so painful, and like a million needles stabbing me all at once. And I had to spend a lot of time retraining my brain to think that your breath on my legs wasn't pain, that just touching my leg wasn't pain, let alone all the bone pain I was in from them putting a rod in my leg and rods in my back. I was in a lot of pain. And the doctor, when I looked at my mom and I said, do I still have my legs? The doctor looked at my mom and got her to come out in the hallway, and he said, I need to let you know that your daughter's never gonna walk again. She went, okay. He said, no, I need you to know your daughter's never gonna walk again. And she went, okay. He went, I don't think you're getting it. He told her a third time, your daughter's never gonna walk again. And he said, I need you to understand this. She said, I get it. I want you to do the best that you can as being her doctor, and we're gonna leave whether or not she walks up to God. And she kept all that negativity away from me. And one time I had a nurse that came in, and classes that had begun at Olivet, and I was like, oh, I really need to get out of the hospital. I need to go. My classes have started. And she said, oh, honey, you're never going to go to college again. That's done for you. You should have seen the daggers that came out of my mom's eyes at that nurse. She was never allowed to be my nurse again, I think. This is a picture of me lying in my bed. I had a big smile on my face. I think I even remember going, cheese. Carl Jung says, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And I had to make a choice early to just stay positive, but it was really hard being in that much pain. They had me on a morphine pump for 10 days, and I remembered, I begged them, I had them take the clock off of the wall and put it in my bed where I could see it, and I saw the morphine pump, and I hit it every 10 minutes. I could, just to have relief. When they took me off of it, they realized that my hand was broken and that I had it set right, so I had to go back into surgery. And when I came out of that surgery, I was all by myself. My mom thought I was in a different room, so I was alone. They hadn't given me any pain meds in a long time, and the surgery, I woke up and I was just in so much pain, and I was just weeping, and I was scared, and I just started singing, my Jesus, I love thee, I know thou art mine. For thee, oh, the follies of sin I resign. My gracious Redeemer, my Savior, art thou. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. And I cannot tell you the peace that flooded through that room by myself. I felt it in every cell of my body. I felt him wrap his arms around me. I felt him holding my hand, and the pain didn't go away, but I could handle it because he was holding me. I spent 5 weeks there at the hospital in Missouri, and then I went on to Kansas to be 17 weeks in a rehab hospital, and it was really hard. You can go to the next picture. I spent 11 months in that back brace, and Albert Einstein says, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. I really couldn't understand that at this moment, but I understand it so much better 24 years down the road. I have learned so much through this process. But at that time, I became so discouraged that I decided that I never wanted to ever go to church again. How could God do this to me? I just wished I died in that accident. And I didn't understand why God didn't just take me to be with him. I loved him. Why didn't he just take me? My life was over. I wanted to go to be at Olivet because it was near Chicago, and I wanted to be in theater, and I wanted to audition in Chicago and go and be on Broadway. But it wasn't in the cards for me anymore, and I didn't understand. So I said, I'm never going to church again, Mom. And I was only 90 pounds at that time, so she just picked me up and put me in my wheelchair and took me anyways. But I'm so glad that she did, because at one time, and I was just sitting there so angry and bitter, and the pastor said in his message that sometimes God doesn't heal instantly. Sometimes he chooses to heal little by little. And I began to get movement in my legs, but not my ankles. My ankles just didn't work, and I developed foot drop in the hospital, so my feet were like pointed down. Have you guys ever, ever seen a Barbie? My daughters called them, Mom, you've got Barbie feet. That's what they called them. And I spent 2 years in rehab learning how to walk all over again, but I never got my ankles back. But during a lot of my frustration and anger through it, I read this beautiful book by Joni Eareckson Tada, who was a quadriplegic, who became a speaker, and she's an artist. She actually painted with her mouth, using her mouth, because that's all she could use, and she talked about finding contentment. And in her book, she talked about Philippians 11, if you want to go to that one, Philippians 4:11 through 13. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or want. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And I took that as my promise that I could find contentment with what God had given me, and the fact that I was alive and I shouldn't have been, and the fact that I was walking even though it was painful. I found contentment, but it was a daily commitment to find contentment because I didn't get my ankles back. But one day, my mom came to physical therapy with me, and my physical therapist commented on her shoes. She said, Terry, your shoes are so pretty. And I said, yeah, they were mine. They were like these 2.5-inch high heels. And she said, oh, honey, you're never going to wear those shoes again. She did not know me well. I looked at her and I went, really? She said, yeah. I said, well, how about this? How about I try them on here with your help, or I go home and try them by myself and don't have your help? And she looked at me like I was crazy. And so I tried those high heels on, and guess what? Because my foot was stuck like a Barbie, guess what was the only shoe that worked for me? A high heel. I got up, and all of a sudden I started walking around. I couldn't believe it because they were paralyzed, but they were stuck in the down position. As long as I had a heel on and they were really chunky, I could walk. So guess how I spent 22 years of my life? In high heels. And I hid my injuries really well, and I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. So I went on and I had a beautiful life in high heels. I have 3 beautiful children. I met and married the most wonderful man, and I have 3 beautiful children. Went on to study opera at the Boston Conservatory, loved it, and I have just had this most beautiful life. And I might be in pain, but I accepted it, that was just part of my life. That was just part of my life. Until after 3 pregnancies, my body said, no more. You are not supposed to wear high heels for 22 years, you guys. You're just not. But I was grateful, right? I was grateful for my life. Gratitude is everything, you guys, in your life. If you can be grateful, the best advice I can ever give you is when you wake up in the morning, you write down 10 things that you're grateful for every single morning. I'm telling you, if you do this process, it could just be that you're grateful for your cup of coffee, or it could be that you're grateful for a comfy pair of slippers on your feet. I promise you that if you train your brain to be grateful, your day is gonna look so good, because like what Dr. Amen said, if you feel gratitude, you will feel grateful. But nobody should wear high heels for 22 years, and slowly after my 3rd pregnancy, my body just started to wear down, and my ankles started to not work at all. I couldn't ever walk on uneven ground. So like my kids had a different childhood. Their mom couldn't play in the backyard with them, because the moment I started walking in grass, I would just fall. My ankles would twist and I'd fall. I couldn't walk on thick carpet, so it was weird to like go into people's houses, and if they had really thick carpet, I had to be really careful. Going to the pool with my kids was an interesting thing, because people just thought I was super fancy in my high heels, and I would get these really weird looks. And I'd try to explain it sometimes to people, and they'd be like, sure, you little diva. And I'd be like, no, I promise. No, they didn't believe me. But eventually, the high heels weren't working anymore. This was about 2 years ago, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was in a lot of pain, and I was basically living in my wheelchair, because the moment I got out of bed, I had to either put on those high heels or I had to be in my wheelchair. But I was content, and I was like, well, this is life. This is like part of my life, and I have to accept this as my life. But so I just went to a doctor to see because I've been to every doctor. I mean, so many doctors all across the United States, especially when I was living in Boston. I tried all of them to try to help me, and everyone was kind of like, this is a unique case. We've never heard of anybody only being able to walk in high heels. It was either high heels or ankle braces for me. But I went to this doctor for he was just a foot and ankle specialist, and he said, for the first time, he looked at me and said, tell me your story. And I did, and he went, I want to fix you. What? I said, okay. He said, let's brainstorm and think how we can fix you. So we did, right there. We sat in his office, and he did a diagram, and he decided we're going to cut a wedge out of each of your ankle bones, and we're going to surgically release your Achilles tendon to get you flat, and then we're going to put screws. These are really, really big screws. You can go to the next slide. Really big screws in your ankles. So I had 5 surgeries starting in January 2 years ago. And it was not easy to do with 3 kids, and it was really, really painful, and I had to learn how to walk all over again, and I didn't know if it was gonna work. It was all kind of experimental, and I remember going the first day to my doctor when they said I could start beginning putting weight on it, and I just collapsed, and I said, it didn't work, and he looked at me and he said, it did work, you just have to fight through the pain. So I had to fight through the pain. I had to grow a whole bunch of bone density in my heels because I hadn't used them in 22 years, and it felt like I was walking on my elbows, and it took a long time for that bone density to come back, and I had to learn how to walk all over again. And during this whole process, all these surgeries, each one seemed to be worse. And every time I would go into surgery, I'm sitting there reading this book called Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday. I highly recommend it if you're going through a really hard time and you need courage to get through it. But he gave a quote by Marcus Aurelius that says, when you arise in the morning, think on what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to feel, even if you're feeling pain, hey, you're alive, and to enjoy and to love. Y'all, it's been 2 years now since my first surgery, and there's not one single day that goes by that I don't cry when I get out of bed, and I can put my feet flat on the floor and I can walk. My kids have got a new mom. My husband's got a new wife, and I feel like I'm 18 all over again. I can walk with my kids on uneven ground, like our backyard now. I can jump on the trampoline. I just walked on the beach for the first time with my kids this past summer. I took my kids to Disney World and walked over 15,000 steps, and I popped these screws out because I walked too much. So I had to take them out. So, and a lot of people that haven't seen me for a few years, they see me and they go, you're short. I know, I'm like 3 inches shorter now. And when you see me, you're gonna see a huge smile on my face because this is the first time in a quarter of a century I've been pain-free. I have so much to be grateful for. We all do. Every day we have is such a gift. It's not been an easy journey. But the next slide is we don't control what happens to us. We control how we respond to what happens. Now, I had more than one person tell me that if I just had enough faith, I would be healed, right? I had people tell me that. And I'll tell you, one time I was in the middle of the night, right after my accident had happened, and this was before Netflix, y'all, so you just had to watch whatever was on television. And it happened to be an evangelist that was having a healing service, and he was healing people, and then he looked at the TV and went, a young woman with spinal cord injury has just been healed. And I was like, oh, it's me! And I rolled out of the bed and fell on the ground. So don't tell me if I didn't have enough faith, I'd be healed. I'm not sure why it took 23 years for me to find the right doctor. I'm not sure why I was chosen to be given a second chance at life when I just lost my best friend to cancer. I don't know why. I've searched and searched for scripture about why bad things happen to us, why difficult circumstances happen to us when we're believers in Christ, right? And the only answer I can come up with is that I just don't know. It's just life. We are all gonna walk our own journey. We are all gonna have our own story, but I know that we can choose to be bitter or we can choose to be blessed. And we can choose to see Jesus holding our hand through our whole journey, giving us his peace and giving us his grace to make it through the difficult moments. He's right there. If you just call on his name, he will bring you peace. He will bring you comfort. You might not see answers to your prayers for 24 years. But having faith in God means also having faith in his timing. Having faith in God means committing each day and knowing that you can't see your whole journey, but he can. So whatever you're going through, these hard times, you can go to the next slide. These lessons, that's me at Disney World, y'all. They will one day be your strength. Go to the next one. Your awareness and your blessing. That's me jumping on a trampoline with my kids, y'all. That was the best moment of my life. So I just want to pray for you right now, and then we're going to close in a song. Heavenly Father, I just pray that you would go before each of these students today, and you would help them know that whatever they're going through, you're here. And that you love them, and that you just want good for them, and that you want to bring them peace and bring them joy. Would you just wrap your arms around anybody that's hurting right now, and would you bring them peace?